Hello and welcome to Fix My City on Asake Online. My name is Leslie Moyo. The Zimbabwean government has proposed the privatization of urban water supply system, a move that has created debate among citizens, civil society organizations, and even local authorities themselves. And one of the voices that are resisting this directive is an activist, Mr. Khumbulani Maphosa, who's the coordinator of Voices for Water. And he's joining us today because he has filed a petition against this move to privatize the water supply systems, especially in urban centers. And he's joining us today to talk more about the petition and what he proposes that government should instead be doing in terms of supplying water to urban centers. Welcome to the program, Mr. Maphosa.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's start with maybe what motivated you to start with this petition.
Thank you very much. I think I have not been motivated to start this petition. I have been forced to start the petition. And what forced me is the government. The government has actually forced me and compelled me to start the petition. Literally, they've come to me and said, start the petition. Why am I saying that? Is that the government has made decisions that are detriment to the survival of myself, my family, my community, my city, and my country. It's actually literally a decision that wants to kill us. And for that reason, that's why I've taken this decision. Because if you privatize water, you are actually putting people in a very tight fix. And if you listen to the words of the Minister of Local Government when he was in Bulawayo, he said the privatization of water will kill many birds with one stone. So we are the birds who are going to be killed here with one stone, which is privatization of water. And I'm not willing to see myself as a bird and many birds dying while I'm seated.
Maybe in simpler terms, what is water privatization? Maybe for someone who's meeting this word or this concept for the first time.
Right. Water privatization is a concept where you are taking the mandate of water service provision and giving it to a private player instead of running it publicly. And when you run it public, you are running it using a public entity like a local authority. In this case, maybe let's say Bulawayo City Council. That if Bulawayo City Council runs water, that's public management. But if you give it to a public entity, that's now privatization.
Mm-hmm. And then in your petition, you also state that, or you argue that this move by the government is unconstitutional. Maybe let's unpack it from that standpoint. Why are you saying that it is unconstitutional?
Okay, I think there are just a few things that we need to look at from the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Firstly, the Constitution of Zimbabwe provides for access to safe and potable water for all. And privatization brings with itself the issue of water metering, right? And if you look at the issue of water metering, most water meters, if you pay for the water before you access to it, and that's already an inhibitor of access. Because if you have to access something, it's like putting a jura wall and a gate around your yard. You have already restricted access. But if you leave it open, there is free access. So if you put a meter, you have a water meter, especially a prepaid one, you have already inhibited access for all. That's already working against the clause of the Constitution. That's the first thing. Number two, if you look at the Constitution of Zimbabwe, it provides for devolution of power. It says all power should be devolved to local authorities. And it classifies which powers should be devolved. It talks of issues of service delivery, issues of development. And we are in a devolved state. Forget that they are not practicing devolution, because the same Constitution of Zimbabwe, in its first paragraphs, indicates that the Constitution is the supreme law of the country. And any policy or action that is ultra vires the Constitution, it is null and void to the extent of its being against the Constitution. That's the first thing. Second thing, it says that everybody, including the government and agencies of government, are not above the Constitution and should abide by the Constitution. So, in this case, the Constitution said devolve services to the lower tiers of government. But the directive to devolve is not coming from Bulawayo City Council, is not coming from Harare City Council, is not coming from Victoria Falls City Council, but it is coming from central government. So central government is acting ultra vires the Constitution. Central government is pissing on top of the Constitution in this matter.
Mm-hmm. But then the proponents of this directive, they are saying that it will improve efficiency, it will improve service delivery. Maybe giving an example of Bulawayo in Harare, for instance, where we have water supply challenges. What do you think? What do you say of that argument?
I think I'll respond to that argument in two. That's how we need to look at it. The first is, when you are doing public policy, you should not do it informed by conjecture and dreams, or in this case, nightmares. You should do it informed by evidence. That's the first thing. So the proponents that say that, my question to them is, where is the evidence? The evidence on the table currently indicates that if you go to America, if you go to Europe, the first people that actually privatized, especially water, and pushed privatization to Africa, because remember this, what we are talking now, it's a colonial agenda. Those people are municipalizing en masse as we speak right now. They are remunicipalizing. They are taking water service provision back to the municipalities, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, let's look at privatization of water in Zimbabwe. It did not start now. Do you know that the first city to privatize, or the first area to privatize water in Zimbabwe was in Bulawayo? In the early 90s, in the early formative stages of in the 1800s and early 1900s, sorry, not 90s, 1800s to early 1900s, formative stages of this city, water was privatized by when they formed the Bulawayo Waterworks Company, right? And that company was dismantled, and the water was given back to the Bulawayo City Council then. Why? It's because it failed. It's because the water became inaccessible for many, became too expensive for many, and the many then were the white colonizers. Themselves, as the colonialists, protested against water privatization. It was not blacks protesting against white. It was whites protesting against another white agenda. So that was dismantled. Then now let's come to modern day era. Let's look at the countries that has privatized water in Africa, right? And when we look at those countries, we should ask ourselves the question, has water service provision been efficient? Go to different places in South Africa, because there are places in South Africa that is privatized water, and there are protests every week, right? Let's go to areas in Uganda, in Burkina Faso, in Chad, in Mali. Actually, our water service provision is far much better than them when they've privatized. So my question is, where are you getting that evidence from? That's the first thing. Then the second thing, I want to deal with the issue of the coloniality of that agenda. Because water privatization is not our agenda as Africans. Why did we fight for independence when we can't have independence of thought? One of the key cardinal pillars of independence was service provision to the people. And when we got the so-called independence, we've dumped it. Now we are privatizing, right? Then lastly, I'll ask a question. If we talk of efficiency in municipalities, who has been running municipalities since 1980? Who has been in charge of municipalities since 1980 is central government. Right? Central government has been in charge, has been giving directives to the municipalities every time since 1980. So if municipalities have failed, who has failed?
But the argument has always been, especially in cities like Harare, Bulawayo, where we have local authorities that are run by opposition parties. The argument has always been that these parties have failed to run these municipalities. Therefore, government then needs to step in, and this is another form of them stepping in to say, you have been failing to provide the citizens with water. Therefore, we need to come up with a model that will ensure that these two cities or even more, I know even Gweru, they have challenges with water supply, Victoria Falls the same, have access to water.
Listen, it is foolishness. When there is fire, you hide your head in the sand and leave your body outside. That's pure foolishness. Let's not run away from responsibility. The local authorities have been run by opposition. Okay? That's evidence, right? But let's ask the question, who is in charge? Are those local authorities operating in their own country? They are operating in Zimbabwe. Who is in charge of Zimbabwe since 1980? Number one. Number two, let's go back to the Urban Councils Act, for instance. Who has power? Is it the councillor and the mayor over the minister? The minister is actually having literally all the power, all the discretionary power. So my question is, why is it that when the going gets tough, instead of the tough get going, they run away and blame others? So if the local authorities have been failing because they are run by opposition, why has the minister, especially as the person in charge, not rained on those local authorities? Why has he not suspended the local authorities and put commissions, for instance, because they can do that? You get the sense? So they have other powers that they can do, but they choose privatization because it is economically expedient for them. They choose privatization because it is another looting scheme. It is another Ponzi scheme that they are trying to bring and then blame the local authorities. And number two, who introduced ZINWA? Was it the opposition? It was not the opposition that introduced ZINWA. You introduced ZINWA, an efficient and useless mechanism that comes in to manage water. And then when it fails, and then you blame the local authorities. For instance, I will give you an example. Which dam has ZINWA ever built for Bulawayo since it came in? The only thing that ZINWA did was adding poles at Epping Forest, which are not even enough to provide us with the water. ZINWA is in charge of these dams. The catchment areas are damaged by artisanal mining. Who has been promoting artisanal mining? Now when the catchment area is damaged, ZINWA does not do anything to protect its own catchment area. It's sitting, it's crying. And the dams are not filling up. ZINWA's dams are not filling up because the catchment area is not managed. If in your house, in your own house, you put a pot on the stove, light the stove, and the stove is not heating, the water in that pot is not boiling, what do? Do you go out and shout at the neighbor and say, my neighbor is putting the volume of the radio high and therefore my pot cannot boil? You don't do that. You don't go out and say, my neighbor is drunk. He's always drunk every day. My water cannot boil. No, you take responsibility. So ZINWA is a central government baby, has failed to take responsibility. The minister who is in charge of local authorities have failed to take responsibility. And they come with privatization because privatization is another Ponzi scheme in Zimbabwe.
And you also state that this move would also hurt urban communities the most. Maybe let's look at, for instance, our city, Bulawayo. What big of an impact will it have if government, let's say, goes ahead with this privatization move?
I'll just share with you two things. In 1999, there is a British company, a UK company called Bywater, BI, then water, which did extensive negotiations with the government of Zimbabwe to privatize water. The manager of that company, Richard Whiten, when he was announcing their dropping of that bid, said a statement that I want to read for you. He said, from a social point of view, these kinds of projects are viable. But unfortunately, from a private sector point of view, they are not. And he went on to explain that the Zimbabwean consumers cannot be able to pay for the water in a manner that will help them to recover their costs and run a profitable business. In 1999, let's remember what was happening in 1999. In 1999, we had a stable economy, fairly stable economy compared to now. Let's remember what was happening in 1999. Employment was there. It was easy, especially if you finished college and university. You were assured of a job. You could actually borrow money before your graduation day and pay it by month end because employment was there, right? Let's look at what was happening in 1999. Cost of living. For instance, let's look at first the salary of an ordinary servant by then. If you equate it to US terms, it was close to $500, right? What was the cost of living or the poverty that time? Close to around $160. So disposable income was available, right? Now let's come to 2025. What's the average civil servant salary? $400. What's the poverty at that time? $500, right? So you are saying, and also let's look at employment rate. Actually, we no longer have employment rate. We have unemployment rate. That's what we have. Majority of our people, graduates, are not even employed. So if this move was said by a water privatizing company, a company that survives on water privatization, that in Zimbabwe is not feasible, in 1999, when things were right, honestly, what will you have drunk for you to say it will work now when things are this decayed and this destroyed? I have to ask, what has intoxicated you to think? Because in a sober, clear mind, you can't think that. So that is why we are saying it will hurt our people. And this is empirical evidence. Because if it was hurting our people then, now it will not even hurt them. It will actually chop their limbs off. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, because of this reason that I've created, we need social safety nets in our country and in our service provision. And privatization does not care about your impoverished person. I'm using that word carefully because I find it disgusting for us to continuously saying there are poor people in Zimbabwe. There are no poor people in Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans are not poor. Zimbabweans have never been poor, and Zimbabweans will never be poor. They have been impoverished. What has impoverished them? It's a system that does not care for them. What has impoverished them is policy pronouncements like this water privatization pronouncements. It's impoverishing our people even further. So privatization will not create the safety net for the same people that you have impoverished. So what you do, with your right hand, you impoverish people. With your right foot, you kick them and kill them. That's unfair.
All right, if you're just joining us, this is Fix My City on Asake Online. Today's program, we are discussing water privatization, and I'm joined by Mr. Khumbulani Maphosa, who's the coordinator for Voice for Water, and he has filed a petition against this directive. Remember, in January, the Ministry of Local Government said that they were proposing water privatization of water supply systems, especially in urban areas, and we've been discussing more about this directive and its impact on urban communities in Zimbabwe. As we continue with our discussion, Mr. Maphosa, you also argue that there's been lack of consultation. So what type of consultation would you have wanted that the government does even before?
I think there is not that there has been lack of consultation. There have been no consultation at all. Not even. So the consultation has been. And that is also unconstitutional. If you go and look at the section on public administration in the Constitution, it says that public administration should serve the interest of the people. It should seek to serve people, not to rule them. This directive is a ruling directive, not a serving directive. So that's why I'm saying it's unconstitutional. So what should they have done? Number one, Zimbabwe has a lot of universities. And in these universities, we don't have dunderheads. We have people that know how to research. I would have expected government to call for papers, right? Call for research papers. Academics, help us. We want to call for a conference. And a conference where we want debate on all sides. Those that are pro-privatization, bring your evidence. Those that are against privatization, bring your evidence, right? And remember, majority of, I think close to 90%, if I'm not mistaken, of the universities here in this country are state-owned universities. So they call for those papers. And then people come and present the papers. Already that's a form of scientific consultation, right? But it doesn't end there. When you have heard these arguments and these evidences, you call for the local authorities themselves. Local authorities. We have a thought here. This is what we want to do. And local authorities come and present their evidences. It was going to help government, especially when they hit the argument that it's opposition-led local authorities and that are inefficient. Because they were also going to give their own views. Because you don't consult your friends. You consult even your foes if you want to do something valuable. The local authorities are going to bring their technical lived experiences into the table, right? Secondly, you call your friends. Who are your friends? These are the countries that have already privatized and those that have failed to privatize. And say, my friends, you privatized and you failed. Why did you fail? How did you fail? You are privatizing currently. What are your experiences? You wanted to privatize. Why do you do that? You are gathering consultations. Then after that, you go to the people. Because all these ones, you have been refining your ideas. One thing that we should run away from is a fajamuka consultation. There is, or itabane consultation. There is a tree that is called itabane in our rural area. This tree, when it's hot, it actually grows on top of mountains and granite rocks. When it's the dry season, it dries, patchy dry. You can just drop a stick of matches and it will burn. But in the first drizzle, not rain, let it drizzle. Within 24 hours, the tree will be green. So that's the same kind of thing that we are doing currently, which is wrong. Where you just wake up and you talk to your friend. Tell me, Leslie, do you think if we do this, will it work? Yeah, it will work, boss. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's announce it. No, that's wrong. Consult the people. The people are not dull. The people know what they want. The people, if you are serving, the local authorities are inefficient. Who are the local authorities serving? Not you in government offices. They ask the people. Come to us, the people, and say, we see the local authority is failing you here. People of Harar, people of Bulawayo. You don't have water. You are going for 2 weeks, 1 week without water. What do you think we should do? Where is the problem? Is the problem your local authority? And then we dissect the problem together. Where the local authority is wrong, we should tell it is wrong. Where it is right, we should tell it is right. And together, we the people, the local authority, the government, and the private player who wants to make money, we then find a solution. Because it's not that the solution should be privatization. There are many things that we could have done as solutions without privatizing water.
So if not water privatization, then what is the alternative model that you think works, especially for cities like our own city here in Bulawayo or in Harare or any other urban area in Zimbabwe?
Right, thank you very much. What is the problem of water in these cities? For us to say what is the working model, we need to ask what is the problem. I think we have about 3 problems. The first problem, especially in Bulawayo, is shortage of bulk water. That's the first problem. We don't have bulk water.
But others have always argued that we have bulk water. But
which one? The rains fall here. Biggest the dams in Zimbabwe are spilling. These ones are not even reaching 40%, 50%. So we don't have water. This first reality, the bulk water is not there in the containers that should carry the water. And the people say it is siltation. It is not siltation. I hear people say, should skip dams. No, you can't skip them. If you have a 1 liter container, Leslie, and you take water here and you pour it in this 1 liter cup, right? And it fills. Then you pour sand into half. You should pour 500 milliliters and it should fill. And then spill. So you remain in this extra container with 500 milliliters. But in this case, you are pouring 10 liters in a 1 liter container, but the 1 liter container is not filling. Why? It's because the water is not coming to this 1 liter container. So, number 1, let's deal with bulk water issues. That's the thing. I'll talk about how to treat that. Number 2, we have a billing problem. For instance, in Bulawayo, our local authority, they also know this. They are failing when it comes to billing. Right? Which is why the government now say prepaid water meters. And they are also saying prepaid water meters. I'll tell you why it will not work. Number 3, we have a paying for water problem. The honest truth, most of our citizens do not pay for water. Right? So these are the 3 major problems, no other problem. Right? I will then address the problems. Bulk water. Who should provide bulk water? ZINWA. ZINWA, do you have the capacity to provide bulk water? If ZINWA does not have the capacity, ZINWA should be disbanded. Because ZINWA was a failed experiment. Or ZINWA should be capacitated. Because we should ask ZINWA again, why don't you have capacity? Do you have capacity because you don't have it or because you are muzzled by central government to have capacity? So we should then look at the reasons there. So either we are capacitating ZINWA or we are disbanding ZINWA. That's number 1. Number 2, we then go to the billing problem. I think you are a fool if you are tripped by 1 stone 4 times. If 1 stone hit your toes less, you should feel the pain to the point that you don't do it again. Let me give you an example of Bulawayo. Bulawayo claimed that is not collecting much from parking fees. Instead of capacitating the local authority and creating a system with the local authority, they introduced TTI. And TTI said it's going to bring smart metering. If you still remember, smart metering, technology-based. But what did TTI do? TTI has just been putting more people on this. There is nothing smart in the metering. The metering is there, but the smartness is not, it's not even close to smart. It's not even dressed. Because they are using the same method that was used by city council, but only that they have been more robust, they are more ruthless, and they have more people. Which city council could have done? So I'm then going back to city council. City council, if you are failing to collect bills, are you failing to collect bills because you don't want to collect bills, you can't employ people, you don't have the resources, or you are constrained by local or the central government, or you don't think, or you are in a scandal also of trying to, because sometimes someone can create an inefficiency disparately so that they then bring their own thing that benefits them. They should tell us that truth. Why are they failing to bill us properly? And then we'll help them there without privatizing. If it means we chuck out some people there, let them be chucked out of the office. If it means some people's contracts have to end and they have to go and head cattle in the rural areas, and some of them maybe they will not even be employed to head cattle in the rural areas, let it be so. The issue is let's ask the reason why. You don't spray perfume when a room is smelly. You look for the rodent that is rotten within the rat that is rotten within your room. Take it out, open the windows. You don't even need to waste money on a perfume. The room will be fresh once again. So that's what City Council needs to do. Unless if City Council is admitting to us, the residents, that when I'm saying City Council, not only Bulawayo, all the local authorities tracking with billing, unless if they are agreeing to us that this billing menace is organized chaos, where they created it themselves so that when we complain, then they say, let's smart meter so that you won't have a problem. That's the thing that we need to look at. Then we look at the paying problem. Why can't we pay? We have been impoverished. That's number one. Our government has been failing to manage the economy. They have taken all our resources and given them to the Chinese and the Russians. And the Chinese are taking everything from us and going to enrich their own countries. And they are doing nothing against it. Actually, they are bringing more Chinese to loot more. So, and secondly, Zimbabwe has passed corruption. We now have kleptocracy and theft and thievery at grand scale. And what is government saying about that? Nothing. Actually, we see the thieves being rewarded. We see the things being awarded. We see the thieves being patted on their backs. Why is the government not reining on this thing that they call corruption, which I'm not saying, which I refuse, is not corruption, is theft and thievery at grand scale? They are not doing anything about it. Let's look at number 3. Where are all the taxes that we are paying going to? We are one of the overtaxed nations in this country. Right now, if you go and buy chips, you pay what is called ZTA levy. Are you a tourist? Where you are paying tourism levy. Are you a tourist? So are you saying that Zimbabweans have been so impoverished that it is sinister and evil for them to buy chips? You don't even expect us to buy chips as locals. As a local person, buying chips is not chips. Two potatoes that have been peeled and fried. That's not luxury. That's a basic thing that every human being, even if you're not working, you should be able to do that with ease. But no, we're not doing that. You are taxing us every day. But where is the money going to? So what am I saying, Leslie? I am saying the alternative does not lie in a one-size-fits-all. The alternative lies in you addressing pockets of the problems that create the menace we are here. Because if you do that, then you have solved the problem. But keep water under public management. Because water is a basic human right. What I always argue, water's all rights. There is no rightless right now which you can enjoy without water. Let's look at simple things. For birth, we need water. If you are born, we need water. Because the first thing that comes out before a baby is what? It's water. And when a baby is born, they wash the baby with what? With water. Right? To make a ritual in your own home, you need what? Water. To baptize you, we need what? Water. For you to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you need to first use what? Water. To bath. There is no one who proposes to a smelling person. You need what? For you to eat, you need what? What? Actually, your body is more water than flesh. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's said to be close to over 70% of your body is water. Over 80% of your brain is water. I always laugh that our mothers used to insult us and say, "Oh, your brain is full of what?" No, it's not full. It's actually water, right? For you, if you die, you are dead. We wash your body when you are dead. We don't wash it with anointing oil. We wash it with what? With water. Right? In your funeral, When we cook food, we cook with what? After preparing you, we come and wash hands with what? With what? So there is no way you don't need water to a human being. So why then are you taking away the water? When you do that, you are killing us. So that's why I'm saying privatization is a killer disease. Let's have other models that are hinged on public management, but that solves the real problems that we have. Where is devolution of power? I will clap for government if government says we have devolved power to the local authorities. Local authorities, you are failing. Now, I will actually sit here with government and say, government, you are right. After devolving, these guys are failure. Let them go. But where is devolution? Since 2013, we are still sitting on devolution. We don't want devolution. Why? Because devolution doesn't serve our interest. Why? Because we have this created thing that we have created in our heads and say devolution will cause secession in the country. So, but the constitution says you will devote to all the provinces and the districts. So what you need to say, you will sit and have 10 countries. And also, I think we have over close to 60-something districts and also have 60-something countries. What kind of secession will we have? There is no secession here. Just devolve power. Stop trying to hold power. That's what creates this problem.
In church, we say, let those who have ears hear. There's a mouthful there from Mr. Khumbulani Maphosa. This is Fix My City on Asake Online. I do hope you are following the discussion and you also contribute to this discussion on this proposal by the government to privatize water, especially urban water supply systems. And hopefully we'll have more time to sit down with Mr. Maphosa to discuss this issue, because it's an ongoing issue. It's as he did highlight that water privatization or attempts to do so is not only a Zimbabwean phenomenon, but we have seen it in other countries. Some have failed, and some are even returning this responsibility back to their own municipalities. Join me again in the next edition of Fix My City. My name is Leslie Moy. It's goodbye for now.